Hey, you guys remember the PSP Go? Why didn't it catch on? Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm your portable gaming expert, Izzy Nobry. This right here is the Izzy Nobry Show. So a couple of weeks ago, I bought this PSP Go off of my good buddy, So a few weeks ago, I bought this PSP Go off of my good friend, TheDXT. He's very active here on YouTube. I'm gonna put a link to his channel down below. And I've always had this guy right here. It's one of the original PSPs. Not exactly the original PSP. This is a slim model. The PSP 2001 was its model number. It's basically the same thing as the very original PSP, except a little bit lighter. So I've always been a very big fan of the PSP. When the PSP Go came out, on the other hand, it was maybe a little bit too pricey. It came out at $299. Now, this is back when you added another $50 to that and you could walk out of, say, Best Buy with a PS3. It was a little hard to justify dropping that kind of cash on a portable system that was by then a good, I think it was 5 years old already. The PSP Go improved on a lot of things that the original PSP was lacking. First of all, it's really portable. Somebody on my Twitter described it as a portable version of a portable console, and I think that's oddly fitting. The PSP right here is quite big. It doesn't really fit in a pocket. It's not exactly a portable console. It's pretty big. It's not gonna fit in your pocket. You can't just pick it up and carry it anywhere like you would with your phone, for instance. This requires some planning ahead. The PSP Go, on the other hand, very portable, very light, very thin, and it really does fit in a pocket. So that's really cool. I'm all about the form factor, and the form factor on the PSP Go, from the very first time I saw it, I thought it was something better than this. That comes with a few caveats though, because the slide out mechanism, really cool, but I've heard it could be prone to breaking the ribbon cable that connects the motherboard of the console to the screen, so bit of a problem there. Ever since I read about that, I'm a little weary of opening and closing this thing, but it's a really nifty mechanism. It's really cool to do. It's too bad that doing it too much could actually break your system. Fingers crossed that it doesn't happen to mine. The other problem that the form factor has is the shoulder buttons here. Now, I'm not sure if you can really tell without holding the controller in your hand, the console in your hand, but the L and R shoulder buttons kind of like fight for space against the screen here, right? So like when the thing is closed, you can just like grip it really nicely. When the screen is open, on the other hand, it kind of like your finger's always resting against the back of the screen. So a little bit of a problem. I have small hands. It doesn't bother me personally. I love holding it, I love playing on it, but I can see why some people disliked it right off the gate. One thing that they did that was very smart was they included 16 gigs of internal memory. Now, the original PSP had no memory. You had to buy Sony's proprietary memory sticks that were like twice the cost of your regular SD cards. Really dumb move. Sony has this thing where they like to push their proprietary formats onto people, and that brings me to another downside of the PSP Go. Proprietary charging port. Kinda sucks. If I lose my cable, can't charge this thing, I'm gonna have to look for a new one on eBay or something like that. Kinda sucks. Overall, I think the PSP Go is awesome for collectors because right now it's really on the cheap side. If you compare it to when it came out at $299, kinda pricey. All in all, even with all these little flaws, I think the PSP Go is an awesome little console for collectors, especially because now you can pick one up for a fraction of what it cost back in the day. I was looking on eBay and Kijiji and places like that. You can pick one up for $50. For $50, this thing is a steal. It's impossible to pass up if you're even remotely interested in portable gaming. Now, the other thing about the PSP Go is that it made me rediscover the PSP library. Now, when I bought my original PSP, I didn't care so much for the library on the PSP itself. I bought this thing primarily for emulators. Now, you can mod these things. They were a lot harder to do back in the day. Very, very easy now. So once you mod this thing, you can put all these old Super Nintendo, Game Boy, Atari, all the way up to the Nintendo 64. Now, it doesn't emulate Nintendo 64 games very well because the hardware and the software are not quite all the way there. But if you're interested on emulating anything, say all the way up to the PlayStation, the original PlayStation, this thing will do it. For cheap, too. I was at a flea market this weekend, and I saw a guy selling 5 PSPs. They look pretty good, and again, I'm a collector, so I look for these things. They were in pretty good condition with the charger and everything for $35. Now, like I was saying, I didn't buy the PSP so much for the actual PSP games. I was most interested in emulation, in old school Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Game Boy, that kind of thing. And I think because I wasn't really so cognizant of the actual PSP library, I too fell prey to that whole myth back then that the PSP was a failing console. Back in the day, the PSP was battling the DS. Now, of course, the DS being the second top-selling console of all time smoked the PSP. The DS sold something like 180 million units, correct me if I'm wrong, whereas the PSP sold something like 80 million units, which is like about half. And of course, if you followed gaming sales trends and the news about it and everything, you'd always see things like, oh, this week the DS outsold the PSP like 5-1 or something crazy like that. And then there were all these opinion pieces about how the PSP is failing and the PSP will never catch on to the DS and the PSP is not all that, all this stuff. So in the public consciousness, I felt there was this notion that the PSP was a waste of time. You'd go to the forums and people would be like, hey, should I get a PSP or a DS? And the overall sentiment, people would be like, the majority of people anyway, it's like, why would you even bother with the PSP? PSP is a failing console, get a DS instead. And it's funny because that really shaped most people's opinion of the PSP as this failed experiment. The reality is that the PSP still, even though it didn't sell, it sold like half of what the DS sold, it still sold 80 million units. That's not something to scoff at. Just to give you an idea, that's about the same amount of Xbox 360s that were sold. That's basically the number of Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo sold put together. The PSP sold basically as much as those two. That is a lot. The only reason we had this impression that the PSP was failing is because despite selling a lot of units, it was competing against the DS, which was selling so much more that made PSP sales not look like that much. Because the PSP was right here, the DS is like all the way over here, makes that look pretty low, but in reality, 80 million units. Still a lot. And the PSP library is actually surprisingly good. We had 3 GTAs, there was 2 Silent Hills, there was 3 Prince of Persia, there was a lot of big AAA titles in a way that we don't see on the PS Vita, unfortunately. 6 Metal Gears, one of them, Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, considered one of the best Metal Gear Solids of the whole franchise. So it's really strange that there was this overall sentiment that the PSP was just a waste of time and money. A lot of people would joke that the PSP was just basically Sony's paperweight, and when you look at the number of units it sold and the number of AAA games that came out for it, and that's not even to touch on the fact that it's such a capable emulation machine. If you're into old school gaming like I am, you cannot go wrong with a PSP. In short, the PSP was f***ing awesome. It's a real shame that the Vita cannot hold a candle to its predecessor. That makes me sad because I would like to buy the Vita. I've been wrestling with the idea of buying a PS Vita, if nothing else but just the collecting value, and I still can't justify it. But I want to know what you guys think. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on your way out, that helps us a lot. And that's everything. I'm Izzy and I'm done. Do you need any more convincing that this thing is awesome?